A global recession is expected in 2023. 60% of economists polled by Reuters predict the world economy will enter recession in 2023. Nerve flexing, isn't it? Economists surveyed by Bloomberg also think there is a 65% chance of a recession in the next 12 months. For much of the world trying to recover from the impact of the COVID 19 pandemic, the impending economic slowdown poses both threats to GDP and inflation. How do you think the economic recession expected in 2023 will affect India? People, do you remember any recessions in the past? If so, how did the economic downturn affect you and how did you overcome it? Please do share your experiences. So let's delve deep into how economic recession will affect India in 2023. And firstly, let's have a look at what is a recession. A recession can be defined as a period of economic decline for a country or the world as a whole. Financially, a period of 3 months is called a quarter. If there is a decline in GDP for 2 consecutive quarters like this, it can be said to be an economic collapse or recession. During this period of economic recession, business activities and production in the country are reduced and the economic growth of the country goes down. Every country has to face many difficulties in the wake of economic recession, from the breakdown of the financial status of the household to the decline in stock markets. Delving deep, the COVID 19 pandemic was one that hit the global economy hard. The Russia Ukraine war was occurring when the economy was struggling to recover. It became another big setback for most of the countries. After two such financial crises, it is expected that in 2023 the global economy will be headed for recession. It is believed that India is also not immune from the impending recession. A scene of rising inflationary pressure around the world, especially in advanced economies, is said to be creating such a recession. So, making it clear, indications from the world's largest economies, the US and Europe, point to the possibility of a global recession. The US economy fell down into negative territory in the first 6 months of this year. US GDP contracted by minus 1.6% in January March 2022 and by minus 0.6% in the subsequent quarter April June. So, technically, as I said earlier, an economy is in recession if it declined for 2 consecutive quarters or 6 months. So, the US economy is already in recessionary stages. The situation is no different in Europe. Inflation in European countries was estimated to have hit a record high of more than 10% in September. In this way, a decline in economy of countries and a rise in inflation will lead to a constant rise in interest rates. And if the cost of funds increases, it will directly affect the economic growth. India has experienced 4 recessions since the independence. According to the report of the Reserve Bank of India, recessions occurred in India in 1958, 1966, 1973 and 1980. And 1957 was a difficult period for agriculture. Low monsoon rainfall adversely affected agricultural production and caused prices to rise. This was the cause of economic depression of 1958. India experienced its first decline in economic growth in 1957-58 when GDP growth fell by 1.2%. Also, two severe droughts in 1966-67 also set back the Indian economic system. In the financial year 1965-66, India's economic growth recorded minus 3.66% and went into negative. The world witnessed its first energy crisis when the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries (OPEC) announced an oil embargo targeting countries supporting Israel in the Yom Kippur War. Following this energy crisis, India's economy fell by 0.32% in the Iranian Revolution. Oil production decreased and oil prices increased. This was followed by the Iran-Iraq War, which cut oil production and increased the prices. This was the cause of India's economic depression in 1980. But in 2023, the situation is slightly different for India. The global expert opinion is that there is no possibility of severe economic recession in India. According to the new APAC Outlook report by Moody's Analytics, the economy is likely to slow down instead of an economic recession in India. In terms of long-term prospect, the report suggests that India is headed for slower growth next year. India's economy registered a growth of 8.5% in 2021 and India's economic growth rate in 2022 was 8%. But in 2023, this growth rate is predicted to decrease to 5%. Being said that India is considered less affected by the economic slowdown than many other countries, but if inflation continues, the Reserve Bank of India is likely to decrease the repo rate above 6%. This will lead to a decrease in GDP. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, higher interest rates will add to the financial challenges for families and corporate borrowers, even if they are needed to control inflation. Persistent inflation, high energy prices, weak real household income growth, and tough energy conditions will hinder the growth, according to them. The energy crisis, which was fueled worldwide inflation, is a consequence of Russia's war on Ukraine. Now let's see how the global recession will affect India negatively. And before that, we really hope for all your support. So everybody please like this video and share to your friends. So coming back to the point, if there is an economic recession in America and European countries, it will also affect India adversely. One of the main reasons for this is that America is the country that export the most from India. In the event of an economic recession, the US federal government will raise interest rates, thereby increasing the cost of imports. This will reduce India's profit margin as an exporting country. Economic slowdown will also adversely affect India's IT industry. This is because the major clients of the Indian IT industry are in Europe and North American regions. This may lead to a lot of firings in the labor sector in India in 2023. And now we are going into the final stages of our topic. In order to reduce the effects of the global economic recession, the things that India is considering to implement are the advancement in agriculture, manufacturing, and service sectors. Another thing that could support India's economy, even if the US and Europe go into a tight economic environment, is India's friendly relationship with Russia and the supply chain from Russia to India. India's increased import of crude oil from Russia is also a contributing factor to Indian economy. Russia supplies oil to India at almost 30% less per barrel than the international market. Apart from oil, India is able to import many Russian products like coal, soybeans, sunflower oil, and fertilizers at low prices. This distribution system from Russia is one of the main reasons why inflation in India has not been more severe than in many other countries. Russia became the third largest importer of crude oil to India in the second quarter of this year from April to June. Russia's share of India's total trade in 2021-22 was only 1.2%, but it grew to 3.1% in the April-June quarter of this fiscal year. Another fact is that Russia was the India's seventh largest trading partner in the quarter ended June on the back of a quick jump in imports. This is also one of the main reasons why inflation in India is less of a concern than in other Asian countries, even though it's not under control. So that's it guys, and don't forget to subscribe our channel for informative videos on various topics in the world. So see you again with another interesting video. Bye.